What's up? Another long form video by yours truly, Cory Sandhagen. Thank you for tuning in. Make sure that you guys like, subscribe, blah, 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 or wait 10 or 20 minutes and then see if you actually like it and then like and subscribe. But today we're gonna do Max versus Charles. Obviously, this is a giant fight. It's gonna be their second fight together, which is cool. Max up at 155 and Charles up at 155 too. It's funny that Charles's first name is Charles because it seems like a very non-Brazilian name, but I like it. Video is sponsored by SHEATH, sponsored by Aries as well. Make sure that you guys click in the link. Thank you guys for supporting the video and supporting the YouTube channel. We appreciate it. Just really quick, if you guys want to check out my free footwork course, I'm giving it away for free right now. It's usually 150 bucks, but like I said, I'm giving it away free so that you guys can check them out in hopes that you guys will obviously, of course, like some of the instructionals that I have on my website. The link is in the bio. Make sure that you guys check it out. Also, make sure that you guys are commenting below what you guys want to see in the instructionals. I'm going to do a ton of them this year. I've already started shooting some grappling ones and jiu-jitsu and wrestling ones, so I know that that's what you guys want to see. But if there's anything in specific, please comment below. Let me know so I have some direction moving forward and I can give you guys what you want. But again, free footwork course below. Peace. Let's get back into the video. We're going to start with Max Holloway. The first thing that we'll talk about, he's been in the UFC since 2012. That's a long time. That's probably longer than some of you guys have even been alive. 14 years now. He's 27-8 total record and 34 years old. I'm almost just as old as him. I actually started training in like late 2009, so the idea that he's been in the UFC for that long is really hard for me to even wrap my head around. His first fight in the UFC was against Dustin Poirier. We're not going to talk about that fight, but it is kind of just interesting that he's been fighting legends since the jump. He's had a legendary career, fought everyone, fought Aldo twice, fought McGregor I think twice, I'm pretty sure, Poirier 2 or 3 times, Volk 3 times, Anthony Pettis, Cub Swanson, Frankie Edgar. Max Holloway's a legend for a reason. It's because he's fought all the best guys. One thing that I wanted to point out first though, that I think is cool, just because a lot of you guys are martial artists and you guys want to learn. Obviously, I think too, if you're watching me, my brand is to not really talk a ton of trash about stuff. It's more to just break down the X's and O's of fighting. The mental side of stuff too, because that's part of the X's and O's, but just kind of exploring the martial artist journey, which a lot of you guys might be on. This is cool because Max Holloway started out 3-3 in his career. And when we get to Charles Oliveira, let me just look real quick. He started out as 4-4 in his career. So that's just kind of cool to me, just because it's fun to see people not have the like all sunshine and rainbows story. And it's just cool when, you know, they've been knocked down a couple times and still climb to where both of these guys have been able to climb to. So that's cool. First fight that we'll talk about is Max and McGregor. They fought twice, I'm pretty sure. I made all my notes maybe like a week and a half ago, and I have only a 5-day memory, so
it's false.
Max and McGregor 1 happened in 2013. This was obviously just 1 year into Max's UFC career. Unfortunately, we can't just have me in the corner talking about the fights. We have to just like show pictures and shit, or else it'll get copyrighted, which sucked last time because I worked really hard on that video and so did camera guy Elias. So we can't post the videos, which kind of blows, but that's okay. We'll post pictures, and then when we go into the gym and jump into the explanation there, I'll probably dive a little bit deeper into stuff over there so you guys understand a little bit better. So the first notes that I have is in that fight, Max is moving a lot. You kind of see this a lot in the beginning of people's careers, and then as they progress, they start to move a little bit less. Max is still definitely a mover guy. I see people as either being rooted or being a mover. Rooted people kind of just stand there, they're connected to the floor, they're ready to punch at any given moment. The mover people are a lot better at moving, circling, being a little bit lighter on their feet. They need to set before they start punching. Usually they're like pull guys and blitz guys. We'll talk all about that in the gym here in a second. But I think that it's important to note that when you see people's careers progress, especially, and I can relate to it in my career as well, maybe I'm projecting a little bit too, but in my career, and I see in Max's Holloway's career, and in some of the other careers that I've just kind of watched happen, it is really interesting to watch mover guys be super movie in the beginning and then kind of settle into their stance. To me, that means as you start to get a lot better, the better style of fighting is probably a little bit more energy efficient is one way to look at it, but a little bit more dialed in and precise is more the way that I would view it. When you're moving a lot, it can, things can just get, it's like you're a quarterback in the pocket and you're always leaving the pocket to throw the ball instead of someone that can stay in the pocket, deal through some heat, and then be a lot more accurate when they're throwing the football. So I just wanted to bring that up because Holloway versus McGregor 1, this was a really big deal. Max was moving a lot, and McGregor was kind of walking him down. All right, cool. Actually, guys, let's just hop into the gym right now. We'll talk about all of this a little bit more in depth, and then also just this Holloway and McGregor fight. I'm being told that they only fought one time, Elias is telling me, so I got my numbers mixed up, but I got a lot of stuff going on. I got a gym opening up here pretty soon. It'll be open by the time that this video is done. Tiger Beetle Martial Arts, shout out. Let's hop into the gym and talk about McGregor versus Holloway 1. All right, cool guys. So if you guys have watched any of my videos, you probably have heard me talk about this, but that's because it's really important. So the Max Holloway versus Conor McGregor first fight. First of all, McGregor looked like an absolute animal. I wish he was still around, especially when he was fighting like that. He was an absolute animal, so that sucks. But you guys should go back and watch the fight. McGregor looked like super nasty, especially, actually in all of the rounds, but definitely in the first round if you're into kickboxing and stuff. But I talk about this all the time, guys, being a mover versus being a rooted guy. So first of all, what that means. When I'm a rooted guy, okay, I'm bending my legs and I'm almost like trying to spread the floor apart with my legs, okay? That makes it so that I'm very quick when I decide to, because I'm driving into the floor the way that I am, if I don't even push off of this and I just lift this, it pushes myself forward, okay? If I'm just standing here like this and I lift this, it doesn't really push me forward. When I'm driving into the floor and pushing apart my legs and I lift this, it moves me forward. That's important because I'm really rooted to the floor in a way where if I go to do anything, I'm already pressed. All of the slack is taken out of my body so that I can attack. Same thing like when you're doing a trap bar squat or something. When you get on the bar, you pull the slack out before you lift. You don't just go with like loose arms and everything like this and try to lift it up because there's gonna be slack, it's gonna be slow. When I'm driving both of my feet into the floor and separating the floor, all of the slack is taken out, so I get to punch really fast and really hard right away. That's really important, rooting into the floor in being able to punch fast and hard right away, okay? It's not super far, like faster than it is when you're a mover, but it is faster and it is important to note because this thing happens in like milliseconds. So if you're a mover, it means I'm not being connected to the floor and I'm more worried about me being able to be agile than I am rooting myself into the floor and being able to punch really fast and really hard. There's a ton of different ways that you could be a counter fighter and rooted. You could be an offensive fighter and rooted. You could be a counter fighter as a mover and a counter fighter or a attacker as a mover too. You just do them differently. I'm gonna talk a lot in this video. That's okay. This shit is actually really important in understanding if you wanna understand the game and if you are training for yourself. So if I'm a rooted guy and I'm more of a counter guy, I'm here on the floor. I'm probably gonna sit into things and try to get myself close. I'll still pull, but I don't pull in the same way a mover would pull. A mover pull is gonna look like this. I'm not super mega athletic in my feet. There's still pros that we'll talk about in a second, but if I'm gonna pull and counter, I'm re-rooting myself instantly. Boom, so I can throw punches. If I'm gonna counter and go in, I'm gonna re-root myself immediately. If I wanna be an attacking guy and I'm a rooted guy, I'm marching people down. When I do go, I get underneath their head, which is a really important thing. Like if someone's this tall or the same size as me and I wanna press forward and attack them, usually I move my head a little bit underneath them. That makes them go like this. and it's really awkward to try to punch someone like this. You want to punch someone that's kind of a little bit more right in front of you. It just feels a lot more natural. When you punch down at stuff, it kind of gets sketchy because your shoulders aren't protecting your face as much, and that just naturally happens on its own. But when I'm being an attacker and I'm rooted to the floor, I have really powerful movements that I can do with my legs to get in. I'm still moving or whatever, but it's a different type of moving than like this type of moving, okay? That's a rooted guy. That's kind of more like Conor McGregor. The best guys in the world can float, set in a second, and then go. Like that's like Conor McGregor 101, is he'll kind of float. He's still a little rooted, but he'll move when he needs to move, and then boom, set really quickly. So the two like mesh together. Most people aren't one or the other. They're a little bit of both, but some people lean harder in the direction than the other one. Second one, before I bore the shit out of you, before we start talking about McGregor and Holloway, is being a mover, okay? I could be a counter puncher still as a mover. I usually don't do it I usually don't slip and go in on shots. If I'm gonna be a mover, I'm usually pulling and then countering right afterwards. You still can. If I'm a mover, I can still shake my head in and do all that, but I'm probably gonna set here and throw punches. But when I'm a mover and I'm thinking counter, like if you like this, most of the guys that you see that are really good at this are either gonna slip and stay long, pull and stay long, but a lot of their counters are gonna come off of pulls instead of dipping in and finding shots there. Being an attacker as a mover, you're gonna be able to be really agile left, right, because you're already moving. So I can lift people up off of the floor. I move, they go to exit badly, and I can blitz them. I can kind of like pot shot them, boom, as a mover. But a lot of my things are not to like starch and kill anyone. They're just more for point scoring and then finding a spot where I get them out of position. Then I would probably root to the floor and then like try to punch them really hard. But Max Holloway is definitely a mover in this McGregor versus Holloway fight. The biggest thing that we see, or the biggest, like it's a dream fight for McGregor to fight Max Holloway in that fight. McGregor does a really good job of feinting and throwing. He's a lefty, but he'll like feint stuff, stab, he'll feint, lean in and punch. What he's doing with those feints and with these like fake moves, like, they're not really feints. A feint I see is like this, kind of like step through stuff and punching, or where you're showing something, getting them to pause and attacking, I think is different. Maybe I'll think of a name for that type of stuff. But when McGregor's doing all of this, all he's looking for is Max, the mover guy, to do one of these, or to try to leave in like a bouncy stance. The biggest problem with being a mover is that when you leave, people can attack the shit out of you and you can't do a lot with it. You can't really counter. If I'm a mover and I go to exit, I don't really get to counter, especially if they're hitting me and knocking me off balance because my feet aren't that set. I don't really get to like pull and then set, because a lot of the time when people are fighting movers, they'll do like skip stuff or feint and then go, because again, all they're trying to get the mover to do is go like this or like leave their stance. That was actually like how you leave properly. Most people will probably leave like this or try to circle themselves out. If someone circles themselves out, they're in absolutely no position to punch. And that's kind of the time where I'll tell my guys, like, you could throw like an idiot. If they're out of position, they can't really hit you, and they can't really hit you that hard. So being a mover, you'll leave position a lot, which is really, really not good. So Max Holloway left a lot in this fight. He was moving backwards a lot. He fought against the cage a lot, but I just wanted to explain that to you guys big time, just because it's really important in understanding this mover type of style and like the pros and cons of it. The pros is that I'm super agile and I usually don't get like starched when I get hit. But the con is that I leave position so much that it can be really easy for someone to counter me, or it's really difficult for me to counter them, and it's really easy for them to just throw whatever the hell they want, and I have like no say in any of the exchanges, which is definitely really not a fun thing to do. But like I said, that was really early in Max's career. Cool. So that was pretty much the beginning half of that fight. The second half of that fight is actually a lot of wrestling. McGregor actually took Holloway down and controlled him for a decent amount of this fight, which is interesting because I don't know that I've seen too many of McGregor's fights where he's offensively wrestling. So that was really interesting. McGregor obviously is an absolute animal on the ground. Don't know if he still is, but he definitely was in 2013. If you guys want to watch that fight, I would definitely recommend it too, because it was just a really good display of jiu-jitsu on McGregor's part. But the summary of this, in 2013, when Max was 1 year into the UFC, he was moving a lot, not super grounded in his feet like we just talked about in the gym, and he isn't really switching stances a lot, and he is not wrestling super great compared to how he is now, you know? Now when we see him wrestle, he defends shots really good, gets up really good. He definitely really knows what he's doing wrestling, but back in 2013, not a lot of us knew how to wrestle super well, me included. All right, cool guys, so we'll briefly talk about Charles and Max 1, the first time that they fought. This one was in 2015, so a super long time ago, 11 years ago now. I wanted to talk about this fight, and without jumping too far ahead, because we're gonna do an entire piece on Charles as well. Charles marches forward and he keeps his guard and hands really high, and he's totally cool with falling to the ground or pulling guard and taking people down and all of that. Like, he is super, super comfortable on the ground. We see it big time in this fight, but I wanted to just briefly touch on this fight, even though there's not a lot to see, because it was in, I think it was in the, I don't have it in my notes, but it was either round 1 or round 2. Charles like fell or something, or went for a takedown and then blew out his shoulder and then ended up quitting or whatever. So there isn't a ton to take as far as like the technical pieces from either one of these fights, but it is interesting that Max fights super similar to how he does now, and then how Charles fights super similar to how he does now, where Max is being a mover and then Charles is just being a guy that pretty much walks forward with almost reckless abandonment, and it makes it super exciting to watch, but we'll see if it gets him in trouble or not. But a really interesting fight to go back and watch if you guys want to, just because it will be really interesting to see how in the development of their styles, which they, I think, fight fairly close to the same as when they fought in 2015. Obviously a lot more precise and a lot cleaner and added more techniques and stuff, but more or less their thinking and their styles are very, very similar to how they kind of are fighting still now. The one thing I did want to touch on though, guys, is when Max did get hurt in this fight, because Charles. So I don't know if you guys remember, but there was a really long stint there where everyone shit on Charles Oliveira for being like a quitter. I don't really judge people or like even giving my opinion about things that I don't really understand super well. So my stuff on all of this, including watching this fight, because it reminded me that was kind of the narrative around Charles Oliveira for a really long time, and now he flipped that around and now he's not a quitter or whatever. My opinion about that is that there are people that are willing to die in the cage, like break my arm, break my leg, whatever, and then there are people that are like, nah, I'm good. You know what I mean? And sometimes it changes depending on the night. Sometimes it depends on like what you got going on in your life. But everyone's capable of change. I think that Charles Oliveira used to fight in a way where I don't know how much he was willing to like walk on the coals of the fire before he was like, you know what, dude, I'll just live to fight another day, which is totally fair, because you have to consider there is sometimes a voice in all fighters' heads where it's like, hey, okay, maybe we lost this one, let's move on to the next one. So I've kind of been there a couple times too. I don't think that it's the right decision to do. Like, I think that the right decision is to walk through the fire no matter how long it takes and just burn whatever gets burnt off. But I do empathize and understand when people are like, I'll live to fight another day. So just my 2 cents on like quitting and all of that stuff. But I do think that Charles wasn't super willing to walk through the fire, but it's kind of sometimes a really tough ask. Yo, what's up, guys? Just want to give a big shout out to Sheath, our sponsor for the YouTube channel. Make sure that you guys check them out. The link is going to be in the bio. They have incredible underwear, clothes, and now socks. So make sure that you guys give them a check out. Just really quick, if you guys want to check out my free footwork course, I'm giving it away for free right now. It's usually 150 bucks, but like I said, I'm giving it away free so that you guys can check them out in hopes that you guys will obviously, of course, like some of the instructionals that I have on my website. The link is in the bio. Make sure that you guys check it out. Also, make sure that you guys are commenting below what you guys want to see in the instructionals. I'm going to do a ton of them this year. I've already started shooting some grappling ones and jiu-jitsu and wrestling ones, so I know that that's what you guys want to see. But if there's anything in specific, please comment below. Let me know so I have some direction moving forward and I can give you guys what you want. But again, free footwork course below. Peace. Let's get back into the video. All right, cool. So this is one of the really exciting fights. Aldo versus Max won. They fought twice. Max won the second time too. I like this fight a lot. This is when Aldo was like in his peak of his career almost. He was crushing. Aldo was a terrifying guy at the time. I know that you guys don't know, or maybe you do if you've been watching for a really long time, but there is a version of Aldo that was like an absolute world beater. I know that he's not that anymore. That's just because he's getting a little bit older. Now he's retired, but also I think that the level of competition went way up too. But Aldo was like scary, like world beating Aldo during this time. Max won via round 3 TKO. We see in this fight that Max is still super bouncy. He's moving a lot. Aldo kind of has that really stationary fighting style, kind of the same thing as Oliveira, except Aldo stays more on the floor. He doesn't march forward as much as Charles does, but Aldo is definitely a really scary dude when he's planted and set to fire. It was a pretty competitive fight. Max did really good. Obviously, he won in round 3, but it was a super competitive fight. When I was watching it, the one thing that I wanted to take from this one big time was talking about Max's guard, because I think that this is one of the major huge things that Max does really, really well. It'll be easier if I explain it in the gym, so let's hop over to the gym and we can go over how Max stands. Okay, cool. Let's talk about Max's stance big time, and then I also want to talk about just really quickly what I think his overall thinking about stuff is. Just being another fellow like skinny, lanky guy, I understand it could feel like you're not as powerful as other guys, whether it's just because people tell you that or because you just kind of buy into it or it's actually true. All of those are probably a little bit true, so, and I'm talking more for you guys that are built like this or whatever. You might still be able to like hit really hard and kick really hard and do all of that stuff, even though you're skinny and stuff, so like don't let that bother you. But if you literally like don't hit that hard, then like you should probably go with like Max's style of doing stuff. But what I mean by that, guys, is Max fights totally like a point fighter, okay? He adds in things that kill people, and he swarms and pours it on people really good when the time is right. So it's okay to be a point scorer. The way that I used to view fighting big time, especially in my own style, is it was like, okay, I'm just gonna point score the shit out of this guy until he has to come get some, because it's either that or lose. And when he goes to try to get some, that's when I'm gonna start scoring like my heavy shots. Max kind of does a similar thing, except Max does it to where he'll point fight a little bit until he sees either you get tired or you get a little bit hurt, and then he'll like swarm you, or he like throws spinning back kicks and stuff like that. Now, like skinny guys need like powerful things to hurt people with. Like I use knees and elbows and kicks. Max uses his spinning wheel or spinning kick also, but all of those things are really important when you're built like this. It's okay to not have a ton of power in your hands. You don't need that, because we're allowed to use all of our other things. So either like adopt one of those styles if you're built like this, but don't get it twisted in that like you want to fight someone that's this tall and built like this and be like, oh, I'm just gonna outpower that guy. Probably not the smartest idea, unless you have like super good natural power, which is some of you guys, but probably not all of you guys. Max's stance though. He stands really square. His legs are still like a little bit like he doesn't stand super square, but his shoulders are super square. So when he's fighting, it's really like this. His elbows are way out here, and I like this because it feels like when you're on the other end of this, like you're being corralled, okay? There's some really good guys here that do a similar style. not Elias. Elias kind of has a little bit of a different style, but there's this guy, Tom, that stands with his elbows kind of wide here like this. And it is like really weird just trying to figure out where to hit him. It feels like my arms are here, so if you go round, that doesn't make any sense. Like my arms are already there, or my shoulder is there to block. And if you go straight, usually people that are longer use this type of style. If you go straight, I'm already longer than you, or it's really easy for me to just parry like this. So he uses this kind of not traditional elbows in, fighting like this. He's like kind of okay with giving up shots to his body in order to feel like you can't go over me, because again, he's been a lot taller than some of the people. And if you do go in, I can like just cover or parry, or just like parry, counter, stuff like that. It just feels awkward to try to punch someone on the inside of their arms like this. You definitely should and can, but it feels sketchy sometimes, especially when they're longer and they're throwing their punches like this, and then you go to counter and they just parry that thing out of the way and punch you. But that's how Max fights, and it feels like you're being corralled when you're the other person on that end. That's really important because, one, if I'm square and I have my elbows way high, it is a little bit hard, and my legs are straight and I'm not like this. Like this is a little bit different, because here I feel good in being able to press off the floor and like crack someone. When I'm straight legged like this, I don't feel like I have a ton of power. All of my weight goes into my front leg, and I'm more or less throwing punches with like my triceps and my arms, a little bit of my body sometimes too, but this is a lot of the way that Max punches, is not like big heavy rotations and not with like a big shove off of the floor, which again is super, that's not like me shitting on Max for like not having power. That's just me explaining like the pros and cons of standing in different ways. He makes it work. The one way that he makes it work super good is he uses his double jab cross really well and his jab really well. So Max will be here and he'll throw his jab and try to pull, or he'll throw his jab and cover, or he'll throw his jab, you back up, he'll throw another one and then launch his cross really hard. Max definitely throws like a really peppered right hand. And then also like he'll finish up usually in like exchanges like how he did with Aldo in this fight. But I want you guys to understand this. When Max was fighting Aldo, he's throwing his jab and Aldo doesn't move. Aldo kind of either moves his head like this or eats it and then fires immediately. He's not really a big pull guy or a big drop and fire. He actually does do that one a decent amount, but more or less he's like slipping into something, but not like in slip. It's like a slip here and then he's throwing his punches. Max does a really good job of throwing his jab, throwing his jab and backing up, even though he does get smoked a lot on the right side of things. When I was watching a lot of his fights, he does get hit a lot here. Throwing his jab and then like eating something on this side, boom, or like rotating so that he doesn't get hit with that left hook that Aldo throws a lot. Or when he jabs, Aldo, if he does go to back up or he goes like, does one of these, boom, which is like not on balance. This is what I was talking about before. When someone is out of position, you can pretty much just run them over recklessly and probably have a good shot at not getting hurt. But when he throws his jab and Aldo does one of these and Aldo fades out, Max chases with a really good 1-1-2. Max does that super well, but I wanted to explain that style to you guys because you'll see guys that fight here, like Ilya. You'll see guys that fight a little bit more bladed with a long guard, kind of like Jan. You'll see guys that fight really square, like this with their elbows here. You'll have guys that fight with their hands completely down. Those are typically movers, but there is a reason and there are pros and cons to using all of those different styles of hand positions. Okay, so now we're in round 3 of this fight. Max gets the TKO. It's one of the more exciting TKOs that I've ever seen. I hope that Elias can pull up like enough pictures to make it seem as exciting as it really was. Probably gonna be kind of a tough ask for him there, but we're not allowed to use videos, I guess, so that sucks. But he pours it on him. Max is super good at trading in the pocket too. This is something that I'm not gonna like show just because I don't like, it's not my thing, so I don't want to like really overstep and be like, hey, you should do it this way, when it's not really like my thing. I have like notes on it and stuff, of course, but it's not I wouldn't really be able to break it down like deeply, but Max is able to like land a bunch of shots in the pocket against Aldo. At the same time, Aldo smokes him a few times here. So Max, like that's kind of the one thing that I put a warning on and like a proceed with caution type of thing when you see guys that are like training in the pocket really good. Yeah, you get to see the really cool body shot that crumbles them, or you get to see like the really nasty knockout or them get wobbled or whatever, but you also see them like eat some pretty heavy shots, which is typically the case when you're exchanging with someone that's any good in the pocket, and this is definitely no exception. Max does a good job of, like I said, training in the pocket, finishing Aldo, really tires him out. Aldo takes a really bad shot, boom, falls to his back, and Max wins the belt and wins. Volk versus Holloway 3, all right? We're gonna talk about this one a ton in the gym because there is a lot of things to talk about. The fight happened in 2022. This was like a major heartbreaking one just because I'm a giant Max Holloway fan. I'm also a giant Volk fan too, but Holloway's been around for forever, and I just feel like he was, you know, accompanying, like I watched that dude a lot on my way up just in fighting and then in the UFC in general. I think he presents himself super well too. Like I think that he's not only like a master of fighting, but he's like a master of like showing his personality in a really tasteful way too, which I really appreciate about him. But he starts out this fight kicking the legs a lot against Volk, which was different than some of the other ones. Most of this stuff that I have on notes, we're going to talk about in the gym. So let's just hop over there and talk about all of it. All right, cool guys. The next thing that we're going to talk about with Volk and Max is how to kick when you are going to be in this stance. This is huge for Max. Like the way that he stands kind of like changes a lot of or like drives a lot of the things that he does. So when he's kicking the legs, boom, or whatever, okay? If I'm going to have this high, wide guard, okay? And I'm going to kick someone that's moving and I'm taller, which is usually a good idea, a lot of the time you'll kick, boom, and the best idea isn't to bring your hands back to your face as much as it's to kick and then like put these things in front of them so that they don't get to just throw straights. When you're the longer guy and you're kicking, you have kind of like double length on them. So when I go to kick, I tried to think of a dick joke, but I couldn't think of a dick joke. But when you kick, boom, and you're super long and they're shorter, really their only option is to try to kick you back or to try to throw straights. So when I do go to kick, boom, instead of coming back and bringing my hands here, boom, I just bring my hands and kind of like put these suckers in the way so that if they do throw straight punches, they just, I can parry them instead of boom, kicking, coming back to here like this where they have a lot more access to my face. I can feel super long when I'm kicking someone and then using my guard in front of them, kind of like how Max did in this fight, which was a big deal. So this other fight against Volk, one of the major things that you have to kind of keep in mind if you are gonna use this style of fighting, and Max does like a lot of like this type of stuff with like a really heavy lead shoulder so he can really extend on his jab and stuff like, or heavy rear shoulder so he can really like extend on his jab and stuff like that. But if you're gonna choose this style of fight, you have to be okay with not being able to throw things like up the center that are going up. So when you're talking fighting a shorter guy where you have a lot of opportunity to land uppercuts or knees or something, if I'm gonna stand like this, that pretty much comes up off of the table unless I'm willing to like dip and throw or dip and throw. And Max isn't really like a guy that like really dips his head heavy, boom, and then goes to throw a punch. He's more like a boom, really long, bang, chop the leg, 1, 1, 2. He's that type of guy. So if I am gonna kind of be higher like this, boom, and have a little bit of a heavier rear shoulder and have my hands way up here, and when the person that I'm fighting is about this tall, it's gonna be really hard for me to throw uppercuts, especially on a guy like Volk who like circles and moves a lot and does a ton of stuff like that. I don't get to like have Volk come straight in, me dip and throw an uppercut. Or I don't get to be in a really bladed stance. Volk steps in and I immediately hit him like this. When I'm like this, it even just kind of feels awkward to try to throw a punch. I have to like do a thing and then throw an uppercut, which is sometimes too late. Sometimes you just want to like do the thing that you're trying to do instead of a thing and then the thing. Sometimes it can be a little bit too slow. So that was pretty much the tail of the tape against Volk. Is like Volk did a really good job. Volk also doesn't stay in range for exchanges to happen. Max
does like a super good job of when he does get in the pocket, like bombing on people the way that he did Aldo. And he's also really good at smothering people. When people can't move the way that Volk can move, and more like an Aldo, you can really smother them, make them really tired by being in their face, and they have no say about it because they don't have the either endurance or like the desire to circle and move a bunch. Volk does have the endurance, and he's like totally cool with circling a ton. So Max kind of moving and fighting his style of fight was really difficult against Volk, because anytime he would kind of start to get anything going forward, Volk would like just exit and not be there for Max, his like smothering type of pressure. So that was more or less how that fight happened. It didn't really work as good the same way that it worked against Aldo, again, just because Volk is really good at circling. And when you're Max and you're a point guy, you either like really need to outpoint them, or you need to like corral them the way that Max does, because he fights really good, and then like really tee off on him and smother him and make him tired and make it a little bit ugly, which Max does a really good job of. But it doesn't work against Volk because, like I said, he moves and he has his own really good skills too. But a big thing when someone's shorter and you have your arms like this, it's really, really difficult to get under them. You can like throw knees and stuff, but a knee is like you have to time knees really good in order to bomb on people, because it's like takes so long. Uppercuts are really difficult. Like elbows are definitely there if you're like an elbow guy, but Max isn't really like an elbow guy. So that was pretty much how that fight went.
All right, let's talk about Charles Oliveira now. Charles is super interesting to talk about. He's 36-11. He's been in the UFC since 2010, which is crazy. That's pretty much when I started training. He also started his career 4-4, which again, I think is super cool, just because this shit is not always, you gotta be totally undefeated, blah, blah, blah. Like, just get better every day and good things will happen for you, and love it and focus and all of that jazz. You know what I mean? Let's talk about his first fight, or one of his first fights that I really liked. It was in 2016. This was 10 years ago. It was against Anthony Pettis, who, again, if you're new to the UFC, maybe you don't know who Anthony Pettis. If you're an MMA fan at all, you probably know who Anthony Pettis is. And he's an absolute animal. Jumped off a cage and kicked Ben Henderson in the face. And Ben Henderson is like definitely not a bum. Kicked him in the face. And I remember when I saw that fight, I like literally jumped up off the couch and like ran a circle around my house, just because that shit was so freaking cool. But let's talk about their fight. So a lot of the things that Charles does, I don't fully understand, to be honest. Like I get it in kind of a sense, but the mentality behind it is kind of a little bit outside of my window to truly be able to understand. He trains at a really good gym called Shoot the Box, I think. Is that how you say it anyway? Shoot the Boxing. Why does that sound, I guess it sounds a little Brazilian. It sounds more like French or something, but you also don't say, why? How come you say Charles Oliveira and not Charles Oliveira? Or is that how you say it? Because R's are H's in Brazilian or in Portuguese. I don't know, dude. Or maybe I'm probably honestly just saying it wrong. But anyways, some of the big things that Charles does is, we're gonna talk about this big time in the gym, but the overarching way that Charles fights is he marches forward with his hands in like a really tight guard here like this. And he walks you down really tall, doesn't really have too much of a fear of getting taken down because he's super comfortable fighting off of his back. And if you get close to him, he grabs you and clinches you and knees, and he tries to hit you as hard and as many times as possible, but he actually keeps super good balance in doing so also, which is really, really unique, because usually when you think of like a brawler, you think of someone that's gonna come forward, swing heavy, and like have their hands down when they punch. Charles is like a super, super technical brawler in that he marches forward, throws really hard, but he's way on balance and he keeps his hands by his face. So that's really cool. The first thing that we'll talk about though is one of his like main things that I see in almost all of his fights is he shoots into double unders and then drags people to the mat. So let's just hop over to the gym really quick. We'll talk about it because it'll be a lot easier to explain that way. All right, cool. Let's talk about the first thing with Charles. I'll talk really briefly and then we'll hop back in here, or we'll hop back over in the other part of the video and then back towards me. Oh man, my shirt has a rip. You did that, you son of a... Don't start to stick your finger in it.
What? Bro, what are you talking about, man?
Yo, what's up, guys? Just want to give a big shout out to Sheath, our sponsor for the YouTube channel. Make sure that you guys check them out. The link is going to be in the bio. They have incredible underwear, clothes, and now socks. So make sure that you guys give them a check out. Just really quick, if you guys want to check out my free footwork course, I'm giving it away for free right now. It's usually 150 bucks, but like I said, I'm giving it away free so that you guys can check them out in hopes that you guys will obviously, of course, like some of the instructionals that I have on my website. The link is in the bio. Make sure that you guys check it out. Also, make sure that you guys are commenting below what you guys want to see in the instructionals. I'm going to do a ton of them this year. I've already started shooting some grappling ones and jiu-jitsu and wrestling ones, so I know that that's what you guys want to see. But if there's anything in specific, please comment below. Let me know so I have some direction moving forward and I can give you guys what you want. But again, free footwork course below. Peace. Let's get back into the video.
Okay, first thing. All right, so Charles fights really tall and he marches forward. We'll talk about that in a second here. But I want to talk about how Charles is totally cool with fighting tall like this when he gets close to anyone or anyone steps in. Because most guys, especially in MMA, when they get close, they like rounding shots. It just feels a lot better than stepping in and throwing on the inside, just because it makes more sense, like from a space perspective. Like my jab lands from this direction or from this amount of space. My hook lands from this amount of space. So in MMA and just in general in striking, you'll get a lot of when we're really close like this, I'm gonna hook instead of a lot of like inside fighting, which boxers do super well because that happens a lot. But when we're here like this and Charles is marching people down really tall with super straight legs and everything, I laugh because it's like, dude, how do you do that? That's like an insane way to fight a little bit because you're gonna get taken down and you don't have like a ton of defense, but it evolves or whatever. But it's just crazy to me to think like to fight like this. But so he has his hands up like this. When he gets close enough and Anthony goes to throw, he like immediately enters the clinch here like this. Boom, starts throwing knees and stuff. What he really likes is anytime he's here like this, marching people down, is he'll get to double underhooks, okay? That's like, Charles shoots that all the time. He almost never even shoots down to the legs. He almost always shoots to like a body lock, or as I like to call them, hugs. So Charles shoots for a hug, boom. Gives him a big old hug, and then he gets him down from there. But we're gonna talk about that in a minute, but I just wanted to explain that why this works is because when you get close enough to someone, they just automatically start throwing round instead of up and inside. So when Charles is marching people down and he gets close enough, he's able to grab into this tie clinch and start working people. The other thing that he did in this Pettis fight that we'll talk about really quick is he shoots for the hug, boom, gets to the back hug. This is a back hug. And then he just pulls Pettis on top of him. This is like a ballsy thing to be able to do just because some guys are super good at scrambling from here. And when I have a back hug and I pull this person down to the mat here like this, there's a ton of opportunity for like this guy to start to like not let me into a space. What I want to have happen is where here like this, I yank this and I start filling the space in between his armpits and his hips. But when I'm like this, good guys will keep everything really tight. Go ahead, like don't let me have your space, yeah. And like this really sucks. I still kind of have him a little bit, but as we start to move, I usually need to unlock in order to start doing anything. And when I unlock, if Elias is any good, he's just gonna like bolt and get out. But Charles is totally okay with fighting on the ground. So he'll be here, Pettis made a mistake, boom, he throws this in. I forget if I have this in my notes or not, but we'll talk about it right now anyways and then talk about it again. But he'll get a hook in, boom, he'll start to cross face and then start to get the choke. And he'll go back and forth trying to get the choke to trying to pull people down back and forth. But I just want to touch on that really quick. The other thing that I noticed about this fight against Pettis is that he's super okay with fighting off of his back. Anthony gets him down, he works, and then Charles goes to a bunch of jiu-jitsu like scrambles or attacks in order to follow him up. We're going to talk about this in one of his different fights that I really enjoy, but for now I want to talk about how he walks people down and clinches them, and if you're going to be that guy, how to do that in a really efficient way, because not everyone does
Actually, now that I'm thinking about it, Charles does a lot of really unique things that not a lot of other people do super, super well, like playing off of his back, using jiu-jitsu to get up a little bit, and then also just walking people down and entering into the clinch. You don't see a lot of super good clinch fighting in the UFC. You do, but it looks a lot less Muay Thai and a lot more like collegiate wrestling. So Charles does it like big time Muay Thai style, which is cool. So let's hop over to the gym and talk about how he clinches people quickly.
All right, let's more break down just how Charles stands a little bit more in depth than just the clinch piece, okay? So be like a fighter that's like based and good, okay. So Charles fights like this, like almost like this, at least earlier. He sinks a little bit, which we'll talk about when he fights Islam. But dude, he's fighting like this, super high. Again, it's ballsy, but if Elias goes to shoot on me, I don't have a lot of stuff to stop me, you know, like except for submissions, which Charles is really good at attacking. And I'm sure that back in the day, it was a little bit more like if someone marches you down and you shoot on a good jiu-jitsu guy, they're gonna start choking you and doing all of that stuff. So those days, in my opinion, for MMA are kind of dead. Like you can definitely wrap a guillotine and start going for stuff, but you have to be like super, super adequate at it. And also not a lot of other guys in this day and age are gonna be like, not shoot on you anymore, you know? Which again, we talk about like Islam, Gamrot, those guys all shot on him. But dude, I have so many things. But we'll also talk about how he does really good when he is on his back too. I just always get so afraid that I'm like shit talking some of the greatest guys in the fight game. But he fights really tall like this. He's totally cool, boom, with like punching. Charles does this a lot too. Because his legs are really straight, you don't get to be crazy powerful like this. A lot of Dutch style, or kind of like, because I think that the Brazilians learn kickboxing from the Dutch, is they'll be a little bit here, but when they go to throw things hard, they step down into a way more athletic stance. This is a good idea, okay? I can fight tall, and then when it's time to like throw an overhand, step, and then be in this really athletic stance, so I can start trading off here. That's a really good idea to do if you do want to fight really tall and long. But he'll move here like this, and then when he does go to throw something, boom, he'll be here and like really plant and root himself to the floor so he could throw really hard punches. But that's how that works. Like I can't throw crazy hard shots with my feet this close. I usually need to dip, and now I feel like I'm an athlete and I can actually hit someone really hard. So that's how that works.
All right, cool. So that pretty much sums up this fight. You know, Charles, he fights tall, he walks forward, he's looking for the clinch, he's okay with that. He loves double unders, and he's okay with fighting off of his back. I would say that that's almost kind of Charles still now. He does things a little bit differently. Let's talk about Islam versus Oliveira, or why am I saying that now? Is it Oliveira or Oliveira? How's Bruce say it? I think it's Oliveira. Whatever. Let's look at Islam versus Charles. All right, so here is a really good fight that I like to watch. This one happened in 2022, so that's 6 years after his last fight. He's already stands a little bit lower and based, which I really like for Charles, just because when your legs are too straight and you're like really tall, it can just be a little bit, like it doesn't look powerful and it doesn't feel super powerful. It's really dangerous because you can like throw knees in a really like scary quick. That's why a lot of the Muay Thai guys fight like that. But it doesn't feel like you can like really crack someone with your hands. In this fight against Islam, we see that Charles is already standing a lot lower than he was 6 years ago when he fought Anthony Pettis, and all of his fights before that too, which is cool because he's evolving. It still kind of didn't matter. Islam still got him down, even though Islam's kind of more or less okay with being on the ground. We're gonna talk about this sequence of events that happens in round one. This is kind of Charles's thing, is using jiu-jitsu for certain responses, trying to stay connected to you, and then following you up. So let's hop over to the gym. It'll be a lot easier to talk about it over there. And we will talk about just kind of what I think is Charles's thinking when he's either pulling guard or looking for stuff inside the guard.
I just farted and Elias is mad about it, but I cut it off. I farted over there and I cut it off. Dude, and that's how it works.
That's not a thing.
You chop it like a tail and then it's over there.
Put your hands on my face now.
It's still floating over there. My hands are covered in farts now, though. This is what Islam, or not Islam, this is what Charles, like, it's kind of one of his go-tos when he's in the, let's face this way, when he's on his back in the guard, okay? One of the first things that he does is, one, he does a really good job of tying people up here and not getting hurt super bad. If I don't have anything, like, in Elias's way to hit me, obviously he just hits me, okay? If I'm holding his head and I have like an overhook, this makes it really, really hard. I'm losing still because I'm losing the minutes or whatever, but it's a little bit better. So what Charles does a lot is he will go for an armbar, boom, here, and he'll like still stay really connected on this side too, so that when the person does pull this arm out, which happens 9 times out of 10, he doesn't let them pull out and posture way high, because now I have nothing. Well, I got a little something, but not a lot. But when I'm here, he'll throw this back over and lock and try to finish his triangle. So that's like old school jiu-jitsu, or not old school jiu-jitsu, it still works, but it's like from day one like stuff. But he'll be tied up, he'll get behind, boom, go to throw this up, they'll pull that out and he'll switch straight to this almost immediately. So that was one thing that happened with the Islam fight. That Charles does super, super good. But again, when someone's really familiar with that sequence, it can be really hard to finish them, especially when they're sweaty and all of that stuff. So the other thing is Islam was on top. I forget kind of where. It doesn't matter. Just like float above me like a butterfly spin. So he was kind of here. Charles went way underneath, okay? Boom, to try to get to Islam's leg. He didn't do it necessarily like this, but the sequence, the idea is almost the exact same. He tries to throw this in here and gets Islam facing that way. If I can finish this, what the finish looks like is, rotate. I put my leg here like this. I have his foot trapped. So if I want to like calf cutter him, boom, I can sit up and they'll tap, okay? You'll also pop the shit out of your own knee if you're not really flexible like this, so be really careful. I've hurt my own knee like this because if you watch my foot, I'm just trying to save you guys a few months of training, but when I come up like this, I'm kind of like torquing a little bit on my own knee. I'm flexible in my hips and stuff, so it's not a big deal. But if like you're a little bit sore that day, that could definitely happen. But what he's trying to get is here and lock and finish, or stay really glued to him. Sorry. I got a cramp in my foot too.
All right.
You all right?
Yep. Okay.
That's what happens when you do drugs, kids. Can't even fucking be in a calf cutter. But, all right, so don't do drugs. All right, so he gets under him. I forget how it happens or whatever. He kind of, let's rotate this way. I forget if he like went here, because you could also do calf cutter like this too, okay? But doesn't really matter. We'll do it this way. So he sends Islam over him. He goes to try to attack. I can still finish this, but Islam cuts and kicks out, boom, and goes to get up. If we replay this, the nice part about doing stuff like this is this attaches me a little bit. It's kind of like grabbing him and making it so that he can't just like run away super fast. So as Islam goes to do that, he notices and follows, keep going, boom, and follows him up like this. Islam's obviously a really good wrestler and probably drilled the shit out of double unders, or hug is what I like to call. He drills the shit out of the back hug, boom, faces him and doesn't get taken down, but it's really, really good jiu-jitsu. When someone goes over you, boom, you attack their leg, they go to run away, the scramble or the attack is still not over, he keeps going, the leg will usually free, and then you can hop on someone's back like that, which is what Charles goes for a lot, and that's kind of his thinking. I think when he's doing a bunch of stuff is like, how can I take this guy's back, which is super jiu-jitsu-y and a super good idea. Cool, so that's pretty much Charles's way of thinking, I believe, on the ground. He's obviously way better at it than I am. He's better than, I would say, like 99.99% of us that are in the UFC, but he definitely has his own unique way of doing things. Unfortunately for him, against Islam, it didn't really, work out that well. Charles goes to like throw a jumping knee, gets clipped, and then gets choked. Kind of sucks, but fighting that tall and throwing knees and stuff like that, and just having your head in the center and just relying on your guard can sometimes get you hit pretty good. So let's move on to Gamrot versus Charles. I think that this is a good fight because Gamrot moves a lot, but Gamrot definitely shoots a lot more than we've ever seen Max Holloway shoot or whatever. But it is still a fight worth watching just because Gamrot does
move a decent amount. I don't know if Max will shoot in this fight. I'll give you kind of my synopsis of everything at the end of this video, but it's hard for me to, I'll just give like a little teaser. I think it's going to be really hard for Max to win unless he incorporates some of that wrestling. Max is definitely good enough, I believe, to stay out of submissions, but Charles walks forward so recklessly. It's crazy. It's super entertaining, but just like watching, it's like, whoa, dude. But that's a way to win. So Gamrot shoots in on one of these shots. Oliveira jumps guillotine and starts attacking stuff from guard. He gets an omoplata. Let's talk about the whole sequence in the gym. Okay, the other thing that we'll talk about that he does against Gamrot, which again is really good. Let's face this way again. I think it's the easiest way to see. Okay, so he's here like this. First of all, Gamrot shoots on like a head outside shot. So he tries to get the guillotine, doesn't get the guillotine. I forget if he kind of goes here, but he goes to throw this omoplata, okay? The key to getting this omoplata is I need to be like in a really precise spot on his leg. Elias is not very strong. If I put, you can sit up for a second. If I put like pressure here and here, I can like really bend that arm. If my pressure is up here and here, it's not like as good. If my pressure is here and here, not crazy good. But what I want is like this and this, so I can really break him down and get the omoplata. So after the guillotine, boom, and we're here like this, my knee is doing this pressure this direction. If it goes under, there's no way I'm getting that. He's just gonna pull that leg out or pull his arm out. But if I can capture this and make sure that this doesn't leave my hip area and start to turn, I pretty much have the omoplata. Charles throws really in front. Oh shit, I got a cramp now. We shouldn't have done those drugs before we shot this video. All right, I'm better now. Boom, I get to here, okay? He throws this, let's rotate this way, this way, this way. He locks and he keeps pressure down. The last thing that you want when you're in an omoplata is for Elias just to posture up, and then you feel like a little bitch and you're like, God damn, get this guy down. So you have to know where to put the pressure, either here or off to the side here. But what you're trying to do is, if this is gone, I'm trying to like shove this to the mat so that he doesn't get to posture up, okay? I'm pretty sure like that's like a super tough ask against someone that's good and athletic and stuff, but still super doable. If I can get under his head, that's like really nasty. And my feet stink too, so that's like an added piece to the omoplata that like really crushes. But when you're here like this, going to sit, boom, all of this. Gamrot has to give up top position, so he didn't roll or anything. I kind of forget how he did, but I think he went to sit like this, and then, yeah, just like go to your back. Boom. And then like they ended up on top. The thing that Charles did really good here too is build up to like a half turtle, like here, yeah, okay. So this is really good too. He did this against Gamrot against the cage. He gets in a hook. I forget which one. It's kind of not mega crazy important, but he gets in a hook. It's probably this one because I need this one to be here. But he gets in a hook and he wants the other hook, right? Like that's like full control. I'm crushing the person. I'm doing good. Anyone that's good is gonna seal this side. Let's rotate. They're gonna seal this side and not let me do that. If I go to like throw this in, I have like I'm way too off balance to be able to do that. Charles does a super good job of being really patient here. He's like, hey dude, I'm on top. I don't need to like get my hook in immediately. Let me just be here and be cool for a sec. He looks at it, he's like, okay, forget it. And then starts to attack the choke. He starts to attack the choke, boom. Gets it kind of across his face a little bit, but that's okay. Gamrot has to start worrying about this. When he does, he goes back, boom, gets his second hook, and that's the end of that scramble. The reason, or not scramble, but attack. The reason that that's really important is because when you're attacking the back and you can only get in one hook, especially for MMA, a lot of the time you need to go back and forth between attacking the choke, attacking the hook, attacking the choke, attacking the hook. Just like how the guy on bottom needs to go back and forth, defending the leg, defending the choke, defending the leg, defending the choke. It's kind of this like who's gonna be able to keep up with who better. But when you're in MMA, jiu-jitsu as well too, but I really only know what I'm super talking about in MMA, is when they get a hook in and they start attacking and you start attacking their neck, they have to address that.
that's your opportunity to throw in your other hook. Good guys are gonna be able to address it, know that you're trying to throw in the hook, block the hook, you go back to the choke, and it's that game back and forth. Charles does this better than anyone, and in an MMA fight, it's way easier than in training, because in an MMA fight, like if your arm gets even mostly across my neck, I'm just being like, I'm just gonna defend that. Especially because my one loss that I have that I got finished in is a fight where I should have been defending the hands instead of worrying about the hooks. So do that.
Yo, what's up guys? Just want to give a big shout out to SHEATH, our sponsor for the YouTube channel. Make sure that you guys check them out. The link is going to be in the bio. They have incredible underwear, clothes, and now socks. So make sure that you guys give them a check out. Just really quick, if you guys want to check out my free footwork course, I'm giving it away for free right now. It's usually 150 bucks, but like I said, I'm giving it away free so that you guys can check them out, in hopes that you guys will obviously, of course, like some of the instructionals that I have on my website. The link is in the bio. Make sure that you guys check it out. Also, make sure that you guys are commenting below what you guys want to see in the instructionals. I'm going to do a ton of them this year. I've already started shooting some grappling ones and jiu-jitsu and wrestling ones, so I know that that's what you guys want to see. But if there's anything in specific, please comment below. Let me know so I have some direction moving forward and I can give you guys what you want. But again, free footwork course below. Peace. Let's get back into the video. So the rest of this fight, pretty much the same. Charles walks him down like the Terminator that he acts like he is. Clinches Gamrot, gets the finish, and that was pretty much that fight. So that pretty much sums up Charles, guys, is he's going to move forward with a good guard. He's going to fight really tall. He's totally cool with fighting off of his back. He's a real big problem if he gets double unders. He knows how to knock people over. He knows how to take people's backs. When he is on his back, he knows how to use submissions to either follow people up or to like lock in and like get some serious leverage on some of his things. So good for Charles. Here's my synopsis, and I say this lightly because I don't really like being a prediction guy. I just don't like doing it. I think fighting, especially like these top guys that I really feel like I almost don't even have any business making a prediction over, because who am I to, critique either one of these guys? I just like breaking down and saying the things that I see that I think that you guys as martial artists can take from it and hopefully get a little bit better from it, or at least understand it a lot better, because there's a million different ways to win in martial arts, and strategy is super important in our sport. So my synopsis is this fight is going to be pretty crazy. It's definitely, like any fight that Charles fights in is crazy, because he's just going to march forward and walk you down and be in your face. That's one, super mentally exhausting for the other person that's fighting, and two, if that person isn't used to it, it can be a really big problem. It didn't work against Ilya because Ilya punches hard as shit. Like you can just see in the leverage that he makes and the way that he torques his body that he punches a lot harder than probably 90% of the guys in the division. But Max isn't known for KOing people the same way that Ilya does. Max does a lot of really awesome things that we already talked about. He moves super well. He has very good reactions. He doesn't mix up MMA as well, but he's just like a sniper, and he knows what he's going in and looking for. It's hard for me to imagine Charles marching forward, Max moving backwards the entire time, and the fight playing out to a decision. That's like really hard for me to see. I think, in my opinion, it's either going to be Charles walks him down and like hits him pretty good, or clinches him and starts messing him up in the clinch and wins maybe a decision by just sheer pressure. But Max isn't the guy to really go out like that. So Max is either going to have to use his wrestling, in my opinion, to just like win some minutes and to just get that pressure off of you, because when someone walks forward that recklessly, if you're not willing to wrestle, you're going to be fighting backwards the entire fight. And if you have the power to stop someone, then cool, or the endurance and just like the mental agility to be able to handle that amount of pressure, then cool. I don't know if Max will be able to do that, just because a lot of his fights haven't really pushed him to the point where I feel like Charles is going to be able to. I think if Max wrestles him, wins some minutes, stays away from submissions, I think that he has a pretty good shot at winning this one. But I think it's going to be a really hard fight. I'm leaning a little bit more towards Charles, either by a submission or a unanimous decision after like a banger of a fight when they're moving forward. But it's a 5-round fight, and it's hard for me to imagine that Charles is going to walk forward like that and not get clipped or not clip Max in those 25 minutes. So I am just even uncomfortable saying all of that, as you guys can kind of tell, but that's what I think. So make sure that you guys like, subscribe, comment. The instructionals are still for sale on CorySandhagenMMA.com. We'll have the link in bio. Make sure that you guys are checking those out. I think that that's all the announcements. I got a gym now. It's called Tiger Beetle Martial Arts. If you're in Centennial or in Colorado, come check us out. First 30 days are free. It goes to about March 14th. So this video will come out before then. So if you guys want to come check it out, I'll be coaching there. Peace. I love you guys. Later.